So, Pokemon Arceus was the big announcement from the recent Pokemon Anniversary Direct. In a lot of ways, this looks like it could be the Pokemon game fans, at least ones like me who haven't been very impressed with Pokemon in recent years, have been waiting for. With that said, I've obviously got a lot of hopes for this game, but it's not lost on me that it's being developed by Game Freak, who I don't have a lot of faith in these days. So I've got many concerns as well, and want to discuss both today because, yeah, I really don't want Game Freak to screw this up. Now, before I really get into all that, I want to make my expectations for this game clear, because even though I was very excited by the trailer, I'm super hyped for this game, I don't expect this to necessarily be the be-all, end-all next-gen Pokemon game we always wanted. When I did my initial video on the trailer, I said, it gives me more sort of Bowser's Fury type vibes, where we're introducing this new open-world style of play, new battle systems in that, and we're sort of testing the waters with this. That's also why I think this is being presented as more of a spin-off with the Legends type name, so we can iron things out before perhaps, this gets adopted for, I don't know, Gen 9 or something like that. Because things like having these big open spaces, the Pokemon actually fighting each other, this is definitely the direction I've wanted to see things go. But I understand also it's going to take some iterations, building and improving upon things to get it all just right. So yeah, I'm not expecting them to just nail everything right out of the gate. I see this being more of a test, a learning experience. And I'm fine with that. I think it's smart to do. The key thing being we're actually seeing an evolution here. I'd rather them take some chances and screw up than just keep doing the same crap over and over and over and over and over again. Because that's basically what we've gotten. So yeah, just wanted to start with that. I don't expect everything to just be totally nailed with this game. But now let's talk about what I do expect and what I hope to see, and again, where I'm a little bit worried. Let's start with the big draw for this new direction, the open world. This is something many have been wanting to see from this series for a very long time. But with this trailer, I saw a lot of people saying this open world looked very empty. We saw a brief look at a town, but most of the trailer just took place in like a forest area with Pokemon wandering around in it. I'm hoping, kind of going off the frame rate issue I discussed in my original video where, I mentioned, if you didn't watch the trailer before, the frame rate looked pretty rough. Similar to my thoughts on that, I'm hoping in terms of what they chose to show also has to do with what they feel safe in showing right now. At this time, maybe a lot of the other stuff looks too rough still for them to want to show it off. I mean, I fully assume there's going to be like a variety of areas. I don't think it's all just going to be in this forest. But beyond that, you want stuff to do, places to go. Obviously, many are drawing comparisons when they saw this between this game and Breath of the Wild, which also had a lot of empty space in it, but obviously you had like the shrines and a lot of stuff to do in it. But I'd also say the survival style gameplay made it very engaging to trek through those open, oftentimes empty environments in Breath of the Wild. And I'd like to see them incorporate that a little bit in Pokemon Arceus. Make the game, I know this may be controversial for some people, but make the game a little bit more challenging, perhaps. It doesn't have to be on the level of Breath of the Wild, okay? But yeah, I think having to trek through these large open environments, going from, let's say, just A to B, is a lot more interesting if you make it a little bit difficult. Make it so you got to do a fair amount of battling, smart battling. You're out in the wild, so there's nowhere to heal your Pokemon. Maybe you can do like a camp type thing, but it's limited use, let's say. And of course, if you wipe, it's back to the last town, and you've got to get out there all over again. I think that approach, adding tension, maximizes this type of experience, what it looks like they're going for. Again, I'm not saying make it super hard, okay? But make people have to think a little bit about maybe like what items to get, and maybe have to approach battles in a way that you're actually worried about, your Pokemon taking too much damage. Maybe every time you defeat a Pokemon, your entire party doesn't get a ton of XP. Just don't make it a cakewalk. because I think that idea of approachability, which the Pokemon franchise is known for, that's part of it, that's a very approachable RPG. But I think with this type of game, if you make it so every fight is a breeze and you're not really worried, that's going to really turn a lot of people off. I think it's going to make exploring that open world a lot less interesting. And obviously, you want a reason to explore. I'd like to see more dungeon-style experiences, have caves and ruins that you actually, again, explore, not just walk down a linear path that has a cave setting. We literally have rails for you to follow in this cave. No, make it open, again, a little dangerous, have some light puzzle solving in there. But yeah, and we know the story revolves around the decks. So you can have missions that are like, this one type of Pokemon resides in, this cave over here. And make that journey from, town to finally catching that Pokemon interesting, engaging, fun, challenging, rewarding. Let's also talk about that new combat style. No more zoning into some basic-ass arena. The fights take place out in the wild, like wherever you encounter the other Pokemon, that's where the fight happens. And finally, the Pokemon actually are going to fight each other. Seeing this was just beautiful to me. I've had some people tell me it's kind of sad that it's like, seeing two Pokemon models actually engage each other in a Pokemon game, that it took this long for that to happen. And I agree, but it still doesn't make it any less awesome to see finally. Yeah, so I've been waiting a long time for these types of improvements to how Pokemon battles actually play out. I really hope this is going to be the route we're going in for the future of the franchise. It's going to be hard for me to go back to Pokemon just standing in place, swiping at the air in front of them after seeing this. But people have to also enjoy it. They have to accept this for that to happen. So I hope they take the time to do this right. I don't want it to feel clunky. The stuff they showed looked good enough, but they also held back, obviously, a lot. They didn't show a lot of really big attacks. It was mostly tackles, kick type stuff. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I hope they maybe limit things to focus more on getting these basics, these fundamentals right. Going back to expecting this to be sort of a learning experience for the developers with all these changes, I don't expect a huge Pokemon roster in this. With the story being focused on building the Sinnoh decks, I expect there to be a fair amount, but definitely not something like we see in the mainline games. And I also don't think there will be any national dex type drama if we see a limited roster, because myself, I can actually see, and I think others who've criticized the series likely can also see the reason here for limitations. I don't expect this game to have 800 Pokemon models ready to actually fight each other. I understand that's going to take a lot of work, unlike what we saw in Pokemon Sword and Shield. This is an actual big change, and one I want them again to stick with, so hopefully they get the feeling of this new style of combat down as good as they can. Like I said, I'd rather them focus more on getting those basics right and having less Pokemon, maybe less moves, than, having a bunch of stuff, but, it all looks like crap. And since it's an actual improvement, I'm going to be understanding. Get it right, please. Which leads me into my biggest concern about this game. Honestly, my biggest worry is that it ends up being great. It ends up being the big leap people wanted from Pokemon on Nintendo Switch. And then it doesn't sell, at least not as well as other games. That's the thing that'll keep me up at night. I have no doubt in my mind that the game will do well, regardless of quality, even if it's bad, because, of course, it's got the Pokemon name. But I'd be kind of nervous if the game ends up being great and doesn't put up huge numbers. Again, it's got some things working against it, being positioned as more of a spin-off type deal. Yes, it's got the Pokemon name on it, but it's not something people usually see, the dual versions and stuff like that. And speaking of, right before this comes out, because this is slated for early 2022, but in late 2021, we've got those basic-ass looking Diamond and Pearl remakes that are clearly, to the public, core mainline games. And again, also, they'll have the benefit of launching towards the end of the year and getting those holiday sales. Arceus, again, slated early 2022. These are slated late 2021. Not to mention, again, how close these games are probably going to release to each other. Late 2021 and early 2022. I don't know how many people are going to want to buy Diamond and Pearl and then turn around and buy another Pokemon game a few months later. Sure, the diehards will, but the more casuals? I don't know. If these games end up being within just a few months of each other, again, I think that's a rough spot. And definitely given the past handling of the franchise, I can't help but think, if they put a lot of resources into this game and the 3DS mobile-looking titles blows this one away, I can't help but worry that they're going to say, well, why are we even doing all this? We're making much more money on these games that cost probably a fraction to make. Why should we even pursue this more expensive avenue when people, as once more they've been doing with this franchise for years, are totally content with settling for less? Yeah, that's honestly the worst case scenario for me, that this game does end up giving us a lot of the things we've been wanting to see in terms of the evolution of the franchise, but it doesn't do as well as these games doing things on the cheap, so they just drop it and go back to what makes them the most money. So overall, I have big hopes for this game, but also am keeping in mind that we're getting a big shakeup to the Pokemon formula here, so I want them to try new things and don't expect it all to play out perfectly the first time they do so. And I do think going in, hopefully Game Freak is keeping in mind, what makes a game like Breath of the Wild work, and take from that what makes sense for a Pokemon type experience, while also focusing on making these new aspects as impressive as they can. Again, making these new fundamentals as enjoyable as possible. But yeah, my biggest concern is that they do nail it, but it doesn't end up doing as well, and so we still end up back to the status quo. Oh man, I'd cry. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your hopes and fears for Pokemon Arceus in the comments. What do you want to see from this big, bold, new direction for the Pokemon franchise? As always, I'm the Shy Guy, Johnny Zakari, and thanks for watching.